Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 16 of my How to Make Video Games tutorial series. In this part of the tutorial, we are going to finish Mario, which means we are going to have to teach Mario, or Manny in my situation, how to jump off of walls. We're going to animate enemies, and then we're going to have Manny fight against an evil snail. Of course, I'm going to cover all kinds of other different things to wrap up this game, and like always, a link in the description will lead you to all the code, as well as the images and all the sounds used in this tutorial series, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Alright, so here we are inside of Unity, and let's run our game here just to see what's going on, and it's loading. And here is Manny, and he's jumping, and he's getting some coins, and he's stuck on the edge of that, and we're going to fix that. See, we can't wall jump right now, but we will be able to wall jump at the end of this, and you can see everything else that's going on here. And also, I want to make sounds whenever Manny jumps. And I also want to set it up so that we can have our snail. He's going to be going back and forth right here, and he's either going to kill Manny if Manny doesn't land on his back, or Manny's going to kill him if he does land on his back. So here we are in here. What do I want to do first? I think I want to add the jump sound ability for Manny. So we have our sounds right here, and you're going to notice that Manny dies as a new sound I put inside of there, and I have get coin, jump, Manny dies, and rock smash. So let's open up our scripts area, double click on Manny, and then we have to think about where exactly we want to have this sound play. Basically, I want it to play in an area like this. Is he on the ground? Yes. And is jumping currently false? Yes. That means that it's only going to trigger once, so I won't have jump sounds, going off numerous times as Manny's in the air. So let's go and add in that capability. To do it, of course, I'm just going to go Sound Manager and Instance and Play One Shot. Once again, Sound Manager and Instance and Jump. And that is going to be all we need to add the jumping sound. Here we are again. Let's go and run it. And there we go. And you can see the jumping sound's in there. Okay, so it's exactly like we would like it to be. Now what I want to do is I want to go in, and I have all of my sprites here, and I want to create some animations for our snail. So I'm going to go into GIMP and set up a sprite sheet specifically for our snails. So here we are in GIMP. I'm going to go File, and then I'm going to go New, and everything I have set up inside of my game is 32 by 32 pixels. So I want this to be 64 by 64 pixels. Click on OK, and then I'm going to click in the Zoom tool by clicking on Z and zoom in here like this, and I'm going to define my 32 pixels. Just drag this over until it goes to 32, and then over here to 32. Going to select this guy. I'm going to come up here in this corner, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go into the Layers menu and add Alpha Channel. And then I'm also going to come up here and go Layers menu and New Layer. And this is going to be transparent, 64 by 64. Click on OK. Then click on the background, and let's delete the background. Now it will be transparent. Click on my Zoom tool again. I want to zoom out here. And then I want to go open up my snail. So I'm going to go File and Open and get both of those snails and place them in a sheet all by themselves. And that is in Local Disk and Users and Derek Banis and Documents and Unity and Mario Assets. That's where I have everything. And I'm going to open up both of these. Click on Open. And there you can see both of our snails. I'm going to do a select all on that and a copy. Actually, you know what? I want to flip them because Manny's facing to the right, so I want these also to be facing to the right also. And how you flip things inside of GIMP is you go Image, Transform, and Flip horizontally. And now you can see he's facing in a different direction. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go Image, Transform, Flip horizontally, and there he's facing. Then I'm going to select all with this, do a copy, jump over into our sprite sheet for our snail, paste it inside of there, grab this little guy, and then I'm going to move him right there, and then I'm going to jump over and get the other one, do a select all, copy, jump back in here, do another paste inside of there, and there we go. And then I'm going to go and draw the dead versions of our snail, so I'm just going to do a paste, go down here, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Let's just come in, let's do a select none on that. Well, or you can just click on this. There we go. Do a zoom in on this a little bit. Switch over to our pencil tool. Of course, we're going to have to come over here. Click on this guy right here. Select pixel. And the size is going to be 1 pixel. And everything else there is perfectly fine. Also, while I'm here, I'm going to go eraser. This is pixel, this is one size. I'm going to click on hard edge. And then I'm going to sort of think about what I want to do with our little snail. So I'm just going to have his head go down. Just to keep it, whoops, real simple. So something like this. Go switch over to my eraser tool by clicking on capital E. Get rid of this. Maybe get rid of all this stuff right here. All that right there. And this right here. Then switch over into our eyedropper tool by clicking on O. Switch back into the pen by clicking on the N. And then just have it go something like this. Drag it over here. O again for eyedropper. And we're going to do a little bit of pen work here. Let's just draw this inside of there like that. Oh, it's not coloring exactly the same color. The reason why is I forgot to come in, or actually accidentally hit the brush. I'm going to hit this guy, but I want to come in, make sure that this right here, the pressure is set to off, so dynamics off. And then we can come in and draw this inside of there, and it'll be 100% the color. I'm going to go O once again, select this guy, and then we can do something like that. I don't know, just doing something real simple. Capital E for the eraser tool and delete this. And then what I'm going to do is come in here and select all this. My flattened little snail, something you would not want to call a loved one. And I'm going to go copy and paste and then drag this guy over here. So there you go. There's the dead version of our snail as well as the animated versions. Okay, and I'm going to go up here and go File and Export As. And I'll throw this in my Unity folder. Let's see, where is... Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm going to jump into the correct one. Users, Derek Banis, and Documents, and Unity, and Mario Assets. And I'm just going to name this guy Snail. And of course, I'm going to save it as a ping file. And I'm going to click on Export, and then click on Export. All right, so we are done. We have our snail sprite sheet. So now I'm going to go and slice it up and start animating it. Alright, so before I get the snail on the screen and have it start doing everything, I'm going to go back to my original promise, which was to teach Manny how to wall jump, and I'm going to do that right now by going into scripts and then the Manny script. So what are we going to need for wall jumping? Well, basically what I'm going to need to do is go and have Manny increase his velocity in the Y direction whenever he specifically wall jumps. So what sort of things am I going to need to store inside of here? Well, I definitely am going to need to have a float that is going to store how much I want the velocity to change. So I'm going to change this to wall jump Y, and I'm going to give it a value of 10F. All right, so we might change that depending upon how well this works. Then what am I going to need to do? Well, I'm going to need myself some functions. Basically, I'm going to need some functions that are going to tell me if Manny is on the next to a wall or not. So how am I going to calculate that? I'm going to calculate with a raycast, just like I did previously. So I'm going to go public bool, and I'm going to say is wall on left, and if it is, well, I'm just going to say return, and this is going to give me true or false as an answer. I'm going to go physics 2D, and then I can say raycast new vector 2 transform, and I can get to the position X minus the width of Manny and the transform position of Y, because we don't care about that because we're trying to see if a wall is on the left side. Then I'm going to go negative vector to right, and this is going to check to the left with our raycast. And then I'm going to define how long the raycast is, how far out I'm going to check. Okay, so we got that. I'm also going to need to check if the wall is on the right. So we're just copying this, pasting that in there, is wall on, and we'll change this to right. And what do we need to change here? Well, we're going to need to increase it because going in the right direction is an increase for the value of X, while going to the left is a decrease. And then we're going to change this to actually check right. Okay, so there we go. We got two functions. One checks if the wall is to the left, and one checks if the wall is to the right. What else are we going to check? Well, we're going to check if there is a wall on the left or right by checking both of them. And then we'll narrow down once we find out that. So we're going to go is wall on left or right. All right, so we got that. And to find that out, we can just go if and call is wall on left. And of course, that's a function. Or is wall on right. And again, once again, it's a function. And if both, or if either one of those is true, we're going to say return true. Otherwise, we're going to return false. All right, so simple stuff. Okay, so now we're able to test if there is a wall. We're also able to test if it's a wall on the left or right. What else do we need to do? Well, we need to get our wall direction if it exists. And then what we're going to do is multiply the results against Manny's x velocity. So I'm going to go public int get wall direction. And then I'm going to say if is wall on left. And remember, that's a function. Well, then we're going to return -1 because that's going to make us go left whenever we have it -1. And then we're going to say else if is wall on right. Well, in that situation, we're going to return 1, which is to the right direction. And otherwise, we're going to return 0. So we'll say return 0. All right, so we got all of those set up. Whoops, I have to put a space here. There you go, now it's fixed. So then now all we need to do is come up here and utilize those. And we're going to utilize them inside of the fixed update area. And I'm going to come in right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if Manny is jumping next to a wall, his velocity will go upwards in the y direction. So I'm going to say if is wall on left or right, and Manny is not on the ground. So we're going to say not is on ground. There it is. And horizontal move is equal to 1. Well, then we're going to go and set the velocity equal to new vector 2 negative get wall direction. And then multiply that times our speed times -0.75f. And then we're going to pass in our new wall jump y velocity, which is the very first thing we defined inside here. All right, so let's save that and we'll test it. Okay, don't see any errors. Let's run and see if we can wall jump. Run, jump. Up, there we go. Yep, see, we're not getting stuck anymore. See, we're able to jump into things. Oops, hit that. It would work better if there was more things, but you can see I'm able to jump. Oh, look at that. See, do all kinds of cool wall jumps. All right. So neat stuff. And you can go in there and stack all kinds of different blocks next to each other and test out the wall jumps, but just see, there you can see. Woo! And you might want to, actually the 10 that I have inside of there, this guy right here, wall jump Y, that's probably a little bit too much. So you might want to cut that down. But for now, I'm going to keep it exactly where it is. So now what do we got to do? Well, I'm going to jump back over into Unity and let's make our snail work. So I'm going to come in here to my sprites area, and I'm going to specifically find my snail. Oops, I guess I didn't drag him in there. I'm going to go get him. So here we are, and there is the snail sprite sheet. So I'm going to grab that and drop it in the sprites folder. There it is. Now I can grab this guy, so I'm going to go and select him right there. And you can see all this stuff popped up over here. I'm going to go in and change the sprite mode to multiple. Pixels per unit is going to be 32 because everything's 32 by 32. Whoops, go and get rid of that. All right, 32. Bilinear is going to be changed to point because we're dealing with pixels, remember? And then we're going to click on our sprite editor. It says unapplied import settings. Oh yeah, click on apply. Here it is. We're going to go slice, and then we're going to go grid cell by size, 32 by 32. Remember, that's how we defined everything. And then click on slice, and then click on apply. All done. Click on that, close it, and now you'll see if we come over here that our snails have been created for us, and there they are. Awesome. Now let's make them animate. So I'm going to grab the first two. This is the walking snail. I'm going to grab him and I'm going to drop him. Let's drop him right here. And this is going to open up, and I'm going to rename this snail run. So snail run. And that's animation file, and make sure that you put it in the right place. So I'm going to go assets and then animation so that things don't get confused, and then click on save. And then we're going to go and get snail 2 and 3. Also select both of them at the same time. We'll drag them over here and we'll drop that right there. So that's our dead snail. And I'm going to call this snail death. Not very nice name, is it? Snail death. There it is. Make sure it's in the animation folder. So assets, once again, animations folder, and then come in here and click on save. You can now come in here and actually delete the dead snail thing. We're going to get rid of that. So we'll go in here and we'll do a right click and delete. You're going to see both all the animations are inside of here. So that's all cool. Now I'm going to double click on snail 0 inside of my animations folder. And you're going to see all this stuff pops up inside of here. And then I'm also going to come over and get snail death, the animation, and drag that over into the window. Here it is. I'm going to select snail run, and I'm going to come over here to speed, and I'm going to change this to 0.5. I need to then create a parameter, and it's going to be a trigger. So I'm going to click up here, click on trigger, and I'm going to name it dead. So there it's, the snail's either going to be alive or dead. I want to create a transition from run to death. So I'm going to right click on run up here and go make transition, and then click on death. I'm going to click on the transition between these two guys, and I'm going to come up here and go has exit time. I'm going to make sure that that's unchecked. And then I'm going to click on the plus sign right here, and there is equal to dead. So it's going to transition from run to death whenever it is equal to dead. Pretty simple. Everything else here is looking pretty good. So I just need to go in there and add some box colliders and rigid bodies to my snail. So I'm going to go back and click on scene once again. Click on my little snail man, and I'm going to go and add some different components to it. So I'm going to go add component. I'm going to add a box collider to it, so physics 2D and box collider. And I want to play around with the offset and size to make sure that it fits around my snail as closely as possible. So I'm just going to come in here and play with this. Try moving this in just slightly. Move in the Y just slightly as well. And then I'm going to change my size on this. So just shrink it down just a little tiny bit. And then also change the Y amount a little bit more than normal. Something like that. There you can see this guy. There is the collider, and I'm going to have to move this down. That should have been more like negative. All right. And there you can see there is the collider around the snail, and it's pretty small. And you can see over here the final results, but your numbers very well might be different than mine, okay? Then I'm going to come in and add a rigid body. So physics 2D once again, and rigid body 2D. I'm going to freeze the rotation. I don't want my snails flipping around, so I froze the rotation on the Z. I'm going to change collision detection to continuous, and everything else there looks pretty good. Now what I want to do is have my snail, of course, move backwards and forwards, and to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up my wrapper first off and drag this inside of the wrapper, just so he shows up inside of there. Rename this guy Snail, just to give him a different, maybe a little bit better name than Snail you could come up with, but I'm just going to leave him Snail for now. And then if I want my snail to move backwards and forwards between 2 points, I just have to create those 2 points. So I'm going to come in here and go create and create empty, and then create empty. There's the 2 points. I'm going to call this snail start, and then the other one is going to be snail end. Of course, the names don't matter for anything in that situation. Then I'm going to position snail start right over here, and then snail end right over here. And as soon as it hits one of those guys, it's going to flip and then turn in the opposite direction. Something else that might be a little bit useful is I had snail start up here. I can come in here and create a gizmo or a better icon for it so it's a little bit easier to see. So let's select that guy. And this isn't going to show up in the game. It's only going to show up inside of your editor. So click on end over here. Click on this, and let's have that be orange instead. All right. So we can now, they're actually on top of each other, which is perfectly fine. We're going to move them into place. So I got snail start selected here, and I'm going to go and change the position on it. I'm going to move it over here by the pipe, and let's go and move it down like there. So we don't want the snail to turn around until it hits that. So we're going to make it look like it's hitting the pipe. And I'm going to go -5 and see if that works. That's good enough. And then I'm going to select snail end and do the same thing with it. So move it further over here. I'm going to put it in the block area like that. And then move it down. Well, actually, don't even move it down. Just have this be -5, just like the other one. We want to have them on the same height. Okay, so that's good. So there you see right there is the numbers, and there you see this numbers for snail start. Okay? Then what we want to do is select both of those, and we want to add circle colliders to them. So physics 2D and circle collider, and that's all fine. Whoops, we're going to have to go is trigger, because that's how we're going to trigger the snail to go left and right. Also select snail end and add component, circle collider. Once again, physics 2D, circle collider, and is trigger. We're also going to come in here. We can shrink down this collider a little bit. It's a little bit too big. There you see, I went and moved it down to 0.3, and I'm going to get this guy right here, and maybe that'll be 0.3 also. So go and see. 0.3 looks about right. So as you can see, the collider's right there on the edge of the pipe, and the collider right there on the edge of the block. So that's going to make him go backwards and forwards when he hits those. Now to get this to work, I'm going to have to go in there and create a script specifically for my snail. So scripts and create and C# script, and we'll call it snail, of course, and we'll open that guy up. All right, so what are we going to have to do inside of the snail? Well, of course, the snail's going to have a speed, and we're going to make it public so that we can change it just in case, you know, it's moving too quick or it's not moving quick enough or whatever. So there we go. There's the speed for our snail. And also it's going to have a direction. So we'll go vector2 direction is equal to vector2. And we're going to start him off going in the right direction. So that's perfectly fine. What else are we going to need to do? Well, in fixed update, we are going to, get rid of that right there and go void fixed update. Okay. We're going to move our snail inside of fixed update. And to do that, we'll go get component and rigid body for our snail's rigid body. And that's 2D. And then we're going to go and set our velocity equal to whatever the direction is. Okay, so that's pretty simple. What else are we going to need? Well, we set up the on triggers so that whenever, we're not going to need start, we're not going to need update. Remember these guys over here, snail start? If we go and select those, you're going to see on trigger or is trigger. Whenever these guys are hit by our snail, we are going to make the snail go in the opposite direction. So to do that, we're just going to say void on trigger, enter 2D, and then go collider. And then, whenever it collides with one or the other of those different things, we're going to flip the direction of movement for our snail. To do that, I showed you how to flip it before. It's just set local scale and new vector 2, and then -1 times whatever it was before. So transform. And then for the Y part, we'll go transform, local scale, Y. Okay, so that's not going to change. All right. Whoop, just noticed that I need to multiply this times the speed also. Don't know how I forgot that. Okay, so we got that fixed. And then we're going to come up here to transform and local scale, local scale dot X, and that's all good. And then we're going to go and change direction equal to new vector 2, -1 times direction dot X, and then direction Y stays the same, because that didn't change. All right, so have that all set up, and now what should happen is our snail should be moving back and forth. We'll go in and run it, see if that's working. And the snail is sort of, I forgot to attach the script to the snail. Let's go in here and grab our snail over in the hierarchy, and then go scripts, and then get our snail and drag it down here and drop it right there. And there it is right there, and we see we have all that set up. Looks good. And we'll run it, and let's see how that, and there's our snail. Whoop, he went over there, but he didn't flip. Why didn't he flip? Let's go see if we can figure it out. Oh, I see. This is supposed to be collider 2D. So a little slip up there. Let's save that. And now we'll come in here and run it. Whoop, there's an error. What's an error? 21. It says, I forgot a semicolon. Go in there, throw a semicolon inside of there, save that. And let's run it and see if our snail is animated. And it is. Looks good. There we go. Now our snail's animated. So super. Everything looks good. All right, so now all we have to do is allow Manny to either kill the snail or have the snail kill Manny. First thing I want to do is I want to go into my sound manager. So let's open up the sound manager script that we have. And I'm going to go in there and put a new audio clip inside of here. So let's click on that. And this guy's going to be called Manny Dies. And that's all we need to do with that. Click on our sound manager over here in the hierarchy, go and click on sounds. Let's go find Manny Dies, grab it, drag it over here, and then drop it right inside of there. Okay, so the sound's all set up, so we'll save that. And now we just need to jump into the snail script and set it up so that when Manny jumps on top of the snail, it dies, and if the snail hits Manny but not from the top, then Manny dies. Okay, so how we're going to set that up is we're going to go and use on collision, enter 2D, and this is a collision 2D. Messed that up last time, won't mess it up again. Then what I need to do is I'm going to say if the Manny that I collided with has the name that is equal to Manny, which is what I named it in the hierarchy. Well, if I hit from above, then I want to basically play a dead animation and remove the collider from the snail and then have the snail fall off the screen. So I'm going to say if the thing that collided contacts 0 dot point Y is greater than transform position of my snail. Well, that means I hit the snail from the top. Well, in that situation, I want to go get component and call the animator. And then I can say set trigger to dead. And that is the animation that we set up when we first started the You know, of course, you know, that animation could be more of an animation. It was basically the same thing over and over again, but you guys get the idea. I'm sure you can figure that out. Then I want to remove the collider so that our snail can fall off the screen. So I'll go enabled and set that to false. So now there is no collider. And then I want it to fall off the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to set its direction for our snail is going to be whatever the direction X was for it. So that's not going to change. And then I'm going to set this to -1. Then I want to destroy the snail altogether, but I want to wait to destroy it. So I'm going to say destroy object, and game object is the snail, since I'm in the snail. And I'm going to say I want to wait 3 seconds. That'll give it plenty of time to fall off the screen. All right. Otherwise, I know that the snail contacted Manny from the front or the back. Anything from, except, you know what I mean. When I say back, I mean the front of the snail or the back of the snail, not meaning the snail's back. All right, hopefully that made sense. So I'm going to play a sound. This is going to kill Manny. So I'm going to play one shot, and I'll go sound manager and reference Manny dying sound inside of there. And that is in Manny dies. So it's going to play a sound, and then it is going to destroy Manny. So we'll go and get this. And I didn't do any death animation for Manny, so I can just go like this, and the thing it collided with, which is Manny, and then I'm just going to have this be very brief. Okay, and I think I did everything I need to do. Let's jump into Unity and see if it all works. All right, let's play it. Here is Manny. Whoop. There's my wall jumping. There you are. And then let's see what happens if Manny gets hit. And Manny died. All right, so it was like the snail ate him. Well, let's try it again. And this time have Manny jump on the snail. Boop. And the snail died. All right. So there you go, guys. That is a pretty complete. Of course, I could make the scene longer, but you can do that. I showed you how to make the scenes. I showed you how to make this jump. I showed you how to set up wall jumping. I showed you how to set up prize blocks, coins, and just everything else that we covered here. This was a really fun tutorial, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And you can do so many other different things platformer-wise now with the knowledge that you've gained from this tutorial. And up next, I think I'm going to do Pac-Man. Haven't really decided yet. You can, of course, leave your comments below. And like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.